break the very lines that our minds create collectively. To tie ourselves to our reality, a contradiction of intuition and the probability of our survival. They say dog eat dog, but I believe in our rival. The redirection of fate, evil teach to reapply all negativity into a place and kill certain parts of you so your soul has space. I found my peace in solidified sand. Rock bottom was a desert in the palm of my hand. I had nothing, I was nothing, I was finally free. And I waited for the desert to kill me. And then I thought that it wouldn't, and I got really mad when the people looking at me see that I already had killed all the parts of me that was killed all of me. I was broken enough to just break free. Freedom means there's nothing left to lose except yourself. There's a beauty in nothingness. The fear of life is on the shelf. 'Cause it's just here and now. 'Cause there's a vow between death and life and nothingness and everything and happiness and strife. Then I finally turned 18 and I could stop hiding from the cops, and the question came, well, what do I do? I would die in the dead of summer and you only get once, and I wanted to see this world anew. And so I stuck out my thumb, I put my faith in good, and with a past full of pain I didn't know why I should, but I did it over and over again. I've traveled thousands of miles, cause now that was then. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's all good, I'm just saying make your breathing worth it. If you turn life into a lesson and you listen to your gut, you can find your soul and rebirth it into a beautiful thing where everything has a reason, like the changing of the seasons. See the sun's even rising again. The death of one means the birth of a new, so take the chance to see what you can do. Freedom means there's nothing left to lose except yourself. And there's a beauty in nothingness. The fear of life is on the shelf. 'Cause it's just here and now. 'Cause there's a vow between death and life and nothingness and everything and happiness and strife. And let it all go, make it your endeavor. I'm a hobo on the streets and I'm happier than ever. Not a dime in my name, just written in the stars. Constellations never care how much is ours. We're held down by ego and that's okay, but we all get lost, letting fear in the way. Gotta live to the fullest, this is all that we got. Don't waste more time, give it pain and fear your energy and precious thought. Girl.
I also could see how, like, I was nothing and I had nothing could be, like, about other people's perspective of you. It's honestly really interesting how people look at you when you go from a kid in your parents' house to a kid who's homeless. Because, of course, people just see you as a bum and dirty and mentally ill and on drugs regardless. And that's really interesting. And it kind of sucks because if you were already pushed through the Cash for Kids system, now you have more people that see you as a mentally ill drug addict. And it's going to be stupid regardless because mental illness comes from trauma. But yeah. So, like, when you're living in your parents' house, well, I was living in my sister's house, but that's besides the point. When you're living in the house with relatives, you may be. No, let me start this over. You may be already seen as, like, the bad kid or the bad, crazy, retarded kid. Because that's the label you get when you're pushed through the Cash for Kids system, and even by, like, Jezebelic or quote-unquote narcissistic abusers. They're going to tell you you're retarded, and they're going to tell other people you're retarded. And the people that want to play flying monkey to the abuse are going to tell you you're retarded and all that stuff. And so, you're seen like that when you're in the situation you were in. But people still kind of see you as somebody because you're in the house. And I really hope this is making sense. But it's like once you run and you become homeless, then people see you even worse than you may have already felt like people seeing you or people told you they seen you when you were in the situation, because then you're a bum. I really hope this is making sense. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, but to sum that up, you're seen as the weird kid or the kid who acts like they get beat on at home, quote unquote, to the bum kid that is a risk because they're a criminal because you can't be by yourself under 18 or maybe even 21 depending on where you live without somebody like having control over you and doing whatever they want to you pretty much. If you're not with abusive relatives or you're not in the cash for kids system, being trafficked through the cash for kids system, you're a criminal because you're underage. So then people will tell you you're a criminal and you're risky, and people act like they're gonna go to jail because of you. Kind of like how people do when you're in this situation and people are like, well, I mean, I'm just gonna step out the situation and stop coming around your mom and dad or your dad, like what people said in my situation, because I don't want to go to jail and different things like that. But to sum it all up, dynamics change even more, and then you pretty much go through more bullcrap treatment by people that consider themselves a part of quote unquote functional society. And then you're seen as a bum, and then you're seen as somebody who um is nothing and has nothing. And that's how I see that, or at least that's one of the ways I see that. Probably could have like summarized that a little more, but it's cold. But I'm gonna talk about why I like this song. So, for one, it's a good song, but two, it really shows emotions you feel when you're in one of these situations where you have to stay in a situation and die or lose your mind or whatever, or you have to deal with the fear of the unknown, which would be running or laying low till 18, the different little names I've made for it over the years. One of the first things that I could say that I like is how she says I was broken enough to just break free. And that's really what these abuse situations in the Cash for Kids system will do to you. Because, I mean, for one, the goal of the Cash for Kids system is to break you down and drive you crazy and all the different things that I talk about all the time. Also, to pretty much just use you as a lab rat. If you're in the Cash for Kids system, you are a lab rat, you are a social experiment, and overall, what was I about to say? I don't even know, but I'm just gonna end that there before I go on a rant about something else. So yeah, you go through so much. You've been manipulated. You've been gaslit. You've been, I don't know. Maybe you've been essayed. Maybe you were strangled. Maybe you were locked in a closet. Maybe you almost died a lot of times. You were drugged. I could keep going. I mean, you were trafficked, higher level and lower level, different things like that. The situations break you to a point where you're like, honestly, what do I have to lose? Because if I do leave, it could be better. But if I stay, I already know what's going to happen. And that goes into the fear of the unknown. And I don't know her personal situation. She doesn't talk about it. I honestly feel like I was one of the people to talk about mine the most back when I used to do that. That was years ago, though. When I was still, well, it wasn't that long. When I was like sharing the evidence videos and talking about different things that happened. Now, I will say though, as I've been saying since the evidence channels, one of the first things you have to work on is cognitive dissonance. Because for one, if you keep cognitive dissonance going on in your head, that'll make you actually be schizophrenic, which I'm not even going to go into all that, but that'll make you actually be schizophrenic, which I have videos about a couple of different things that cause schizophrenia. And also keep in mind that schizophrenia means split minds, but all mental illness is different forms of double-mindedness, which comes from trauma. So keep that in mind. Because what's going to happen is if you keep cognitive dissonance, they're going to be like, You're gonna be like, did this happen? In fact, no, let me give an example from this boy I know who was trafficked by the US military and different things like that. He would be like, my mom did this, and that, but then he split, and then the other personality would come out, and he'd be like, no, my mom wouldn't do that. My mom could never do that. My mom is all I have. Things like that. That'll make you schizophrenic. Actually, schizophrenic. And of course, schizophrenia is a spectrum anyway. And honestly, I would say that all these different little labels are a spectrum. Seems like their idea of schizophrenia is the stereotypical sociopath or maybe psychopath, but that's not necessarily what that is. But like I said, I have videos about that. So yeah, you want to get rid of the cognitive dissonance. You want to actually accept that what happened happened. And another thing is that if you don't necessarily become like noticeably schizophrenic or noticeably have split minds, another thing that could happen is you could become an enabler or flying monkey to your own abuser, which is also really common, especially for like the golden child or somebody who wants to move into a golden child position. And of course, becoming an abuser yourself, that could also happen. And overall, if you don't break free from the cognitive dissonance, you'll never really leave the situation, and you'll just sit in there and lose your mind more and more. I've seen situations of somebody being hoovered and guilt tripped back into a situation because they hadn't really worked through the trauma and got over the cognitive dissonance. And so after leaving, they felt guilty, texted their relatives showed the police. The police ended up surrounding the person after finding them, and the person was surrounded by the police crying because they were about to get sent back to their situation. And you may know that due to how the cash for kids system is these days, it's hard to really be in a bad situation and not get pushed through the cash for kids system, at least certain branches. So you would go to jail, you would get charged, be in jail for a little while, and then get sent to a mental facility, TTI type place for a while, or maybe the other way around, the mental facility, TTI, and then jail, and get in charge. The last thing that's kind of irrelevant though is that I liked how she said I had nothing. The place I last lived when I was living with my sister, and I was finally free. Were living with my sister, and I like a lot of things about that. A little more, and I'm not even gonna lie, I don't know about other people's situations, but I kind of already didn't really have Jack. But I definitely, or at least was finally free. That live in areas like that are also seen by the people in certain sectors of functional society, quote unquote, as people who are nothing and have nothing. It's just funny how people are pretty much. Like the video I made titled The Perspective of Insanity, like how people are insane based off of certain things and certain people's perspective, and like how if Albert Einstein, which I'm not even going to go into the real backstory of that, but if Albert Einstein was like, I don't know, if he was a homeless dude, or a homeless quote unquote black dude, how people would have seen the things he said then. I like how she said, I found my peace in solidified sand. And that's honestly really how it is. And of course, I mean, things aren't going to be like wonderful all the time because that's just not like how life is, but living in that mountain I was living in, being on the beach, being in the sand pretty much, in the dirt, that was definitely really peaceful. And honestly, I've always liked being outside, so like whenever I was allowed to go outside, I was outside. It was the one place I could really get sleep. It was a place where I could like think. I said liking honestly so much. I could think outside. I could when I was still doing the evidence channels, I eventually had to like sneak out there to make those videos that I probably should have just stopped caring about. It was always the best place to be. I've always liked nature. And like I've said before, ever since I was like 6, I always saw myself living outside, to be truthfully honest. I really did. Like, I saw myself eventually one day, like, escaping before the world starts to come to an end. That was always the thought that I had in my head since I was like 6. It was the most peaceful, stable, um, all those good things that my life had ever been after leaving. And it's like, you do kind of have this anxiety feeling over you the whole time while you're laying low. Because it's like, you're worried about the police. Now, me personally, due to my ethnicity, I was never looked for anyway, but I still had to worry about Let Me Help You Lunatics, and I still had to worry about possibly having run-ins with law enforcement anyway. Because it's like, if somebody calls the police, I could go to jail. And then also there was like a lot of racial stuff, especially with the area I was in, but like, it's either that or it's the Willie Lynch syndrome house niggers. So, I mean, it's like either way was going to be some bull crap. It's going to be peaceful, but you're still going to have some anxiety with it because it's like, if I don't make it till 18 or 21 or whatever, then like, it's over and I'm going to be locked up and I'm going to be getting drugged and I'm going to be having comas from the drugs. I'm going to be having health issues from them. I'm going to be charged, or I don't even know when I get out from being locked up. Or maybe even if the police take you, they may not even say anything to their relatives. They may like do something to you and your relatives would never even know. Different things like that. You're gonna worry about those things, which she also talks about in one part. Finally turning 18, not having to run and hide from the cops and ask people what to do. So there's that. Because I mean, it's real. And you may have to wait till older than that depending on where you are and what state you're in. And that is like, that's the real anxiety. Although I will say that even with all the anxiety, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but you feel the most anxiety mixed with like, I don't even know, euphoria maybe, when you're leaving. It's like fear, but the hope and the possibility of you laying low and not having to like be at risk all the time anymore. As funny and ironic as it may sound. I stuck out my thumb and put my faith in the good. She's talking about hitchhiking. Now, I personally, of course, most people aren't even able to figure out how to secretly save up money for that and how to secretly get a card to put the money on to buy the ticket and all the things that go along with that. And some people don't even really live in the area with public transportation. And that kind of goes back to something I said in the How to Run playlist with the different videos. I said that you want to get as far away as possible, as quick as possible. Then when it comes to putting her faith in the good, putting her faith in the fact that everybody isn't like her relatives and or whoever in whatever situation she was in. Especially when you're like hitchhiking, I'm sure that you want to put your faith in the good because you want to hope that nothing crazy happens. 6. With the past full of pain, I didn't know how I should, but I did it over and over again. I've traveled thousands of miles or something like that. So she put her faith in the good when it comes to hitchhiking and probably just getting help from people in general while laying low. And she didn't know how to do it due to her past and all the stuff that had been done to her, the past full of pain. But she did it over and over again, and she traveled thousands of miles, putting her faith in the good of people are good people, and trying to believe that there actually are good people in the world, regardless of what people had done to her. And I mean, that's the hard part, because, I mean, find your soul and rebirth it, make your breathing work it, and make everything have reason. Changing things to where pretty much everything has a meaning to you now after leaving your previous situation, and I can definitely see that. Because it's like once you get out of constant chaos, constant torture, not knowing whether you're gonna get locked up tomorrow, um, I don't know, fighting for food, health going downhill, not being able to sleep, or not being allowed to sleep, different things like that. Once you leave, your mind clears up. And of course this depends on like how broken you've actually become due to your situation, which it doesn't even really depend on what all has happened or for how long. It's just like different people get different things, which is why somebody could get essayed and become quote unquote schizophrenic, but somebody else may just get what's called quote unquote DID, but another person may get quote unquote bipolar, which I have a whole playlist about that label. So like that, but other than that, your mind clears up. You're not like in fight or flight anymore, at least I wasn't. And you have time to really think about things and become more purpose driven and really like know you can actually live now and you could actually have a life and you could actually do things in life. Because for one, you don't have people in your ear telling you that like you're never going to be able to do anything and you're retarded. Or you may have one of those infantilized and Jezebelic quote unquote narcissistic abusers with the Leviathan and other marine spirits that tells you things like you could never live without us, and or you're too, I don't know, just like you don't have people in your ear manipulating you pretty much, and you're able to actually think about things and you can like really see that you could actually live life and it could be peaceful and it could be calm and you don't have to let people do whatever they want to you and you can live. If I didn't already say that. 8. We all get lost letting wait. We get lost letting fear in the way. I'm pretty sure she says don't waste your time giving fear and pain your precious thoughts. This is about being scared to leave. A lot of people are like, well, what if I get caught? And I'm not gonna lie, some people are in situations where that's harder to do. Like, I mean, if there's locks everywhere and the door's bolted or you're chained to like a radiator and heater in the basement or something, it would be harder to leave, obviously. But other people, you're just like really, really scared. And some people, honestly, I've seen people that aren't even, they're just really fearful. Like, their situation isn't even all that, but they're just too scared to leave. Like, I've really seen those too. Like, really. And it's really annoying, to be honest. I'm not trying to be rude, but those are always the people that feel like they need a group and a partner and always begging somebody else to do something. But they know good and well they wouldn't even meet somebody halfway. Don't even give those people your time. But anywho, the point is, um, save yourself, live your life. Don't let fear of the unknown or fear in general get in the way. Because if you do, you're not going to get out ever. And I mean ever. You're not, if you keep staying scared of everything, you won't get out regardless of how old you are, what situation you're in, to be truthfully honest. That's why there's people that are still 30, 40, completely broken, still sitting in these situations, talking about what their mom did when they're almost 50 and what their dad said and what their cousin said and uh, their grandma's hiding the food and the uncles abusing their kids, stuff like that. That's what's gonna happen if you don't let go of the fear. You're never gonna get out of it, Jack. And I would honestly say I feel like this is one of the biggest acts of bravery you could really do. And it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but I don't really think people actually get the ramifications and the thoughts and the time, the planning, the letting things go, the acceptance that you have, the level of all those things you have to get to really say, okay, I'm gonna escape or something like that. Honestly, it's kind of funny though looking back because I had escaped a TTI once, and it's like I feel like now that I'm remembering that even happened, if I could do that, I should have just left the situation sooner. But I can't say the longer the wait till 18 or 21 you have, the worse it'll be. Way worse. Because it is like really painful just sitting around waiting to have rights to be able to like get a house or get a car, get a job, enroll yourself in school, go to a shelter, go to a soup kitchen without questions being asked, or just not being able to go at all. Things like that. Although I can say a lot of people could probably lie about their age. People think I'm like 10 or 11 or something because of how I look because I'm really small, but I would say depending on how old you are, you probably could lie and say you're older. That's what I would advise you to do. I would honestly say if you look older, it'll be better for you. Lie and say you're the oldest age that people will believe. Because for one, if you're anything under 30, people are always going to feel like there's somewhere you're supposed to be and someone you're supposed to be with that you're quote unquote being bad and hiding from, or that you were quote unquote being bad and got kicked out.